Welcome to Grit, Grace, and Resilience. I'm your host, Michelle DeGrange. I'm a corporate leader, mentor, life coach in training, and a mom to what feels like 37 kids. Just kidding, only 6. Apparently, all that qualifies me to overshare on the internet. Every one of us has a story of overcoming, and this podcast is here to dig into those and talk about life and what overcoming with grit, grace, and resilience looks like. If you like things a little messy and sometimes a little unhinged, you'll fit right in. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Welcome to Grit, Grace, and Resilience, and thank you all for being here. I am so excited today to get to talk with Cindy Kamakalum. She is the host of Hear Me Out with 2 E's, and I'm excited about this opportunity to get to bring her story to you. She and I were able to connect as really a camaraderie in the podcast community. And Cindy reached out to me and we've had the most amazing conversation. And it really shows the power of community and how we all at the core of everything have a very similar story and are able to connect through our purpose and our pain and our overcoming and our resiliency. And today's conversation is really about 2 women who have walked through really hard things and found turning pain into purpose. And so welcome, Cindy. I am so glad that you're here today.
Thank you. I am so honored to be here and be a part of this. So thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your podcast and what you're currently doing in the podcasting community.
Absolutely. So Hear Me Out kind of started as really an opportunity for me to heal. So I'll go a little bit back. I've always wanted to do a podcast. I've done different iterations of a podcast, but last year, a little bit after August, I'd say right around September, I came up with this idea and I said, I finally want to do it. I want to create a podcast and I want it to be a platform that I can talk about a myriad of things, right? But mainly self-development, growing through pains, things that are affecting my community and the communities that we serve, women, even men. But it was honestly a platform for me to release all of the things that I'd been holding on over the years. And it was an outlet. Like I had gotten to a point where I lost myself, right? As being a mother, going to law school, 2 kids, wife, the whole gamut. And I just felt like I didn't know who I was anymore. And I needed a space and a place to rediscover that. And that's kind of why I decided to start the podcast. And I host it with one of my really good friends. We went to high school together, and it's been honestly the best thing that I could have done for myself because it's given me an outlet.
You and I are just, separated at birth, sisters, because that's exactly how I ended up starting this podcast, was this journey of healing and trying to again find myself and where my footing is, and so many life changes. And also as just like you, as a reason to give back and find ways to help other women along the process, or men, or anyone that's listening in their journey, something to relate to. And I found so much of that in your and I's discussion, just around the relatability of motherhood and the challenges of motherhood. Take me back in our discussion that you and I had about being a first-time mom and navigating law school and then learning about your son's autism diagnosis. It was so relatable to me with the passing of my sister and becoming legal guardian mom to my 2 nieces, now daughters, and what that experience was like for me emotionally. And that idea of what it cracked open for me. What did all of that feel like as you walked through that? And kind of maybe you can share just that experience and story.
Absolutely. I'll preface it by saying, I may get emotional. So for those of you guys who are watching, because
That's why we're here.
Yeah, it's something that took me 7 years to really grapple with. So going back, I always knew that I wanted to be a mom. It was something that even as a little girl, I knew I wanted. And so, got married, and next thing you do is you work on having kids. My son was maybe 3 or 4 months when I started law school. So I got accepted to law school while he was still, in my belly, but I didn't start until he was about 3 or 4 months old. That journey in and of itself was, it was just, I don't know why I thought I could do it, because it was hard. You're all in. You are, I did a program that was part-time and it was at night. I worked full-time and I had a newborn. My baby, everything was perfect with my child, my son. Around 6 to 8 months, I started to feel like There's something. Like, I didn't know what it was. I couldn't really put my finger on it. As a first-time mom, you're tracking every milestone. You're super, super on top of every little thing. And something just kept gnawing at me. Like, I don't know what it is, but there's something up. And I would go to my doctor at the time, and he would say, oh, he's going to grow out of this or grow out of that. And I would say, oh, we'll see, like his eye is kind of veering off to the right. Oh, they don't have full control of their eyes yet. He'll grow out of it. But something just didn't feel right. And I got to a point where there was I remember it like it was yesterday. There was an appointment, and I decided I wasn't going to say a word in that appointment. I was with my husband and my son, and I just kept quiet the entire time. And that was very uncharacteristic of me, because I was the one, when I would go in the meetings, I was always doing the talking. I was asking all the questions. And so the doctor said to me at the end of the visit, he says, is everything okay? And I mustered up the words to say, I've come in here week upon week upon week, and I tell you that something is going on, and you keep telling me everything is going to be okay. And I can't, as a physician, I'm not a physician, right? So I can't tell you what it is, but there is something going on with my son, and I don't know what to do. He then agreed to make a referral to the regional center, which was the best thing that I could have done. I don't remember exactly how old my son was at the time, but he was under 1 for sure. And that we started our journey. I didn't get the diagnosis until my son turned 2. And it was the most agonizing year, because a part of me knew that there was something wrong, but I didn't know what it was. And so you go to all these doctor's appointments and all these specialists, and they tell you, well, you have to wait until he's 2 to be able to do the assessment to get a diagnosis. And it's not like I wanted an autism diagnosis. I just wanted to feel of this thing that I was feeling when I didn't know what it was. It was the hardest time in my life, I can say, in the last decade or two. I wanted to believe that it was all just going to go away. Like, I was just going to wake up one day and he was going to just surprise me. I also was going to school to be an attorney. So, like, I'm having to have long nights, early mornings, I'm working. It put a big strain on my relationship with my husband at the time, because we had very different views on how we were going to handle and tackle this.
I think part of that feeling was because you knew internally, like that mother's instinct, I think, is one of the most powerful things in the entire universe. Do you feel like part of that wrestle and why that was so hard is because you felt something inside, but no one was validating it? Did you feel like just no one was helping you with something that was so deep?
Yeah, I mean, it almost made me feel like I was crazy, because I was seeing things. Like, for example, my son, he's had 2 surgeries on his eye, but back then, when babies are young, they don't have control of their eyes, right? So sometimes their eyes may not track together, but my son's eye would just veer off to the right, just veer and come back. And I'm like, that doesn't seem normal, right? And I don't know that that's necessarily consistent with, autism, but it was something about just the characteristics that he was exhibiting made me feel like there's something. And it was tough, because I didn't have a diagnosis or a word or what to say. And everybody would tell me, you're just being a first-time mom. Like, it's fine. Like, he's a baby. He'll be fine. And I'm like, okay. And quietly, I would be dying inside, because I'm like, well, maybe they're right. But then I felt what I felt, and I knew what I felt. And I just, the fact that people weren't giving me the audience to say, well, let's look into this a little bit more. It honestly made me feel so small.
Mhm.
And the most challenging part of it was with my husband, because this is our first child together. We had all these dreams about what what the childhood was going to be like. And I think every time I would bring it up, it was like a gnaw at him. And he's just like, well, just leave it alone. Like, it's going to be fine. Like, he's still a baby. Like, why are you putting all of this on this baby? It was honestly the most frustrating thing to go through. And it took a while. I mean, it took a very, very long time. Even after the diagnosis, it took a really long while before we arrived at what I would consider the beginning of acceptance.
I totally get that. I mean, I've even in this experience with, losing my sister, and I was surprised by my own level of grief, but also guilt and anger and these really uncomfortable feelings of resentment that I had no idea what to do with, and grieving this life that I thought I was going to have, and this plan of what I thought I was going to have, and then what this new life looked like. Was that, and I don't think we talk about that enough, like the idea that, kind of some of those darker feelings of that shame and guilt and those hard pieces of motherhood, that we're losing ourselves, but we're also wrestling with all these internal feelings of inadequacy or guilt or shame or how we see and feel the world. Do you feel like that was a big part of the wrestle with your husband and the wrestle with the diagnosis?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think we talk about that nearly enough, right? I had a vision in my head of what, even before my son was born, like all the things we were going to do and all the places we were going to go. And, you slowly have to give up on that a little bit because in order for you to truly, right, be present and love the child that you have to get rid of whatever you thought it was going to be. And I think for me, the hardest part is the comparison. I would look
Right.
at other kids in and around his age and I would see what they were doing and I would say, well, my son's not doing that. And the byproduct of that was that I didn't want to take him around other people, which now when I think about it, I feel devastated, right? Because I feel like I robbed myself of the support that I could have gotten from others, but I also robbed him of the opportunity to engage with other people his age, even if he wasn't at that same level. I used to compare my son to every person in and around his age, and it drove my husband crazy, I'm almost certain of, and it would drive me crazy because then I would ask myself, like, is it something that I did? Like, well, maybe I'm not doing enough. Maybe I need to take him to this play center and take him to this daycare. And I just ran myself crazy trying to make him fit in, right, to this mold that they tell you, okay, well, at 6 months, they should be doing this. And at 9 months, they should be doing this. I mean, my son didn't crawl, let alone my son didn't crawl until after he had turned 1. I mean, it was
Mhm.
severely delayed. I mean, didn't walk until maybe somewhere around 2, maybe after 2. Like it was really jarring how delayed he was. And it was very heavy. It was a very, very heavy time. But that comparison really robbed me of all the joy I was supposed to have. And I put that on myself. I mean, I didn't know any better at the time, but I just was so wrapped up and warped in this, well, he has to be doing this. And if he's not, it was like this confirmation bias. Well, yeah, well, there has to be something wrong because he's not meeting this milestone. So why can't you guys just give me the diagnosis so that I can actually do something about it? It was tough. It was very, very tough.
I think every mother that is watching this, and I'm sure every father, we have these expectations. And then comparison becomes thief of our joy, right? And society, I think, plays a huge part in that too. We have these expectations on what motherhood is supposed to look like, and we're supposed to have these babies and we're supposed to just be grateful. And when something doesn't go along or align with that kind of expectation that we set in our head, I don't know that I ever gave myself the opportunity to grieve that loss of that expectation and not just barrage myself with something that well, it should look like this, it should look like that. I need to be versus the relief and the grace that comes with self acceptance. And I don't know, do you think, like, part of me, I look back on my early years of motherhood and the person I am today is a result of all of those misalignments, right? All of those not giving myself grace, all of those things. Do you feel like going through that is responsible now for this amazing wisdom and grace that you have today?
Part of it, I think I was really hard on myself. I mean, I'm grateful that I have such a strong support system, amazing parents. I mean, I always say this, and I am not joking when I say this. Like, if I come back for another life, I would want my parents again and my siblings again and all the people that rallied around me because I don't know that I would have been able to come out on the other side who I am today without their support because I went in a very dark place. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to be social. Like people would have to actually drag me out to do things because I wanted to protect, or at least what I thought at the time was protect my son from the looks and the stares and the sidebar conversations that I knew undoubtedly would happen because that's just human, right? Like we're not that they were doing it intentionally to hurt me, but they'll see your kid and they're going to make assessments. I think it took me, I would say I didn't really get to a point where I started accepting this life that I've been called to live until my son was about 5 going 6 and now he's 7 going 8, so not very long ago. I had to a lot of tears, a lot of crying, a lot of asking God why, and I think there was a shift that just came. And I said, I can spend the next 10 years lamenting and being angry or asking why. But what if I just shifted my mindset and said, well, why not? Why not you? Why not? I mean, you're an amazing person. Maybe God thought you were the best person to have your son. And it was only then that I started to say, God gave me my son for a reason. And every person has a purpose. I may not see the purpose today. And sure, is it hard? It is. It is extremely hard. I don't gloss over that at all. Having a child with special needs is very difficult. It takes so much of you, and you have to renew that strength every day. It's not like you get it for a month and you just go. It's like every day you wake up, you're reminded that your child needs you fully. I mean, my son is like 100% reliant on me. But when I got to that point where I shifted my mindset, I freed myself really from the expectation that I have to do it alone and that I have to know all of the answers. Like God gave me my son. He has to have a plan. And maybe he's not going to tell me the whole plan today, because if I knew the whole plan, maybe I would try to circumvent all the things that I need to go through because I know the plan, and I won't actually get the true benefit of being a mother to this amazing boy. I will say, for any moms out there, because I used to think when I was going through my storm, if I could just find anybody who's gone through something like what I was going through, to either just talk to or ask questions. I felt alone. I felt like I had to figure it all out on my own. I would look at people who had children and they're like, they're nothing like my kid. They're not going to be able to tell me anything. Like my son is nonverbal. He's still in pull-ups. Like they're not going to be able to tell me anything about my child. But I was wrong. I was very, very, very wrong. I've had the privilege of meeting people on all different walks, from all different walks of life, with kids on the spectrum from severe to not severe. And I've learned so much. I've unburdened myself from having to feel like I got to do it all on my own. And that mindset shift that I made changed my life. If I didn't change my opinion of it and say, well, why not me? I would still be harboring all of those feelings and feeling guilty and bad and ashamed. I felt ashamed. I hate to say that, but I did. I felt ashamed.
I think that's the power of accepting and being honest with those feelings. Is I think that everybody feels that way. We just don't talk about it, and we don't give it a voice and allow it to be okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I felt ashamed, and I don't know where that came from. But again, I think it is as a mother, you want to be perfect, right? You want everything around you to be perfect. You want them to have the perfect childhood and eat the right foods and drink enough water and all of these things. And motherhood is not perfect by any
Far
stretch of
from.
the imagination. It's the most
I am a
imperfect.
firm believer my kids will wind up in therapy no matter what I do. I always joke like, oh, I'm going to go put $20 for a therapy copay in a jar and we'll just tuck that away. Sorry. But I also kind of think and look at that as like building resiliency, because there is no way for us to be perfect. We are so human. And part of our beauty is in that fallibility and that beautiful vulnerability of you to even be able to be in that space to articulate that I feel shameful. I can totally relate with this experience that I've just gone through, that power of community allows other people to come in and support us and love us through our own fallibility and vulnerability.
Sure. You mentioned something during the first conversation we had, and I actually talked to my sister-in-law about this, the anger. When my son was probably we tried the daycares. It didn't work. He would literally just stay in one corner all day, and I would pick him up and I'd be like, he's in the same place I left him when I dropped him off, and it would just break my heart because I'm like, obviously you're at a daycare. They can't just take care of your kid. They have to take care of all of the kids. But I remember telling my sister-in-law, we had this conversation. I said, I used to get angry at him, and that was such a bad response. But I used to be angry because I'd be like, you're not trying. Just try. Just try to pick up the spoon and feed yourself. Just try to. And I had a period of time where I was really, really angry. You're doing this on purpose. Why would you do this? There's nothing wrong with you. And I remember the woman who loved her to death because she was a part of my healing journey. She said, do you think, just stop and ask yourself for a moment, do you think it's easy to not be able to communicate what you want, or easy to be able to not be able to just go and pick up a bag of chips or whatever and just open it and eat it? Like, have you ever stopped to think how scary it must be to like just be in your head, to have all
Yeah.
these thoughts, or you want to use the restroom and you can't just go and do it, right? And I remember when she asked me that question, I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Like, I'm almost certain that my son has thoughts. Like, I'm almost certain. I don't know what it is. I don't know how sophisticated they are, but I'm almost certain he has to, right? Because he's responsive to things. He can't, if I tell him to come, he comes. So like obviously he has thoughts. But when she asked me that question, I thought to myself, wow, nobody would choose, right, to just be in their head or be 100% dependent on anyone. He needs you, right? And you need him in a way, right? To slow down. Because I've always been the type of person who's doing 100 things at once and I'm going 100 miles per hour. And it's like, go, 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 fast, 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 fast. And my son actually made me slow down. Slow down. Like these moments are fleeting. You know, he needs your help. Meet him at the point of his need. Don't be so consumed with it has to look like this and he's not trying hard enough. That was also a huge part of the way I shifted my mindset to think about him. And of course, you know, once I made that shift, I will tell you, my son has improved leaps and bounds. I mean, he can feed himself, you know, he can do things that prior to that conversation that I had, he wasn't able to do. But I would say it was partly my fault because I would just do everything for him. I would just anticipate, oh, he wants this, let me just give it to him without actually requiring him to, but not try in the sense that like you have to do it perfectly, but just make an effort. And then I, you know, reinforce that effort with praise or, hey, well, this is how we do it. But I had a lot of anger and I know that it's not the right thing, right? But it's a real thing. It is a very real thing because you have to die to yourself a little bit. You have to actually, you know, I had to mourn the part of me that I knew that I wouldn't get back, which is I have to consider my son before I do any and everything. Who's going to stay with him? How is he going to do this or that? If I have to travel, all of those plans have to be centered around my son. And so that was just something that you touched on that, you know, I don't think I actually really, I knew that I was angry, but I didn't realize the extent of my anger. And I actually thought very long and hard after we had our call, like, did that anger, did it help me in any way? Right? I don't think it did. I don't think it helped me in any way. I think it actually made me, I don't know, I just don't think it was productive, but it was real and I had to go through that. And today I can say I've become a more patient person. If that's a thing, a more patient person because I realize that he is unique in his own way. He will always probably need help, but his timeline and my timeline are very different. And I have to love him and accept him for where he's at without being angry about it because that doesn't do anything for us. It doesn't make him learn the thing that I want him to learn faster.
Don't they always say that anger is a tertiary emotion? So what is
Mm-mm.
underneath anger, right? Sadness and grief,
Sadness.
which makes
Fear.
sense. Fear that it's in the grieving process, right? Like I really didn't understand the anger component either and grew up with my sister and I was never angry with her. Like we were best friends. And I didn't understand until halfway through this, A, that I was angry. I just didn't know what all these feelings were, this level of just underlying river of unrest and irritability until I had a conversation with someone that helped me better understand that that anger was really actually a part of grief. And it's in one of the stages and it's not linear that
At
you
all.
come back to it and it comes and goes. Anger is a hard one because it's not a feeling that I think that we all deal with necessarily well or know what to do with anger. It just can sit unless, you know, we've got people in our life to help that are patient and that love us through it. I know that for me, my anger has taught me a lot about myself and my own current limitations of
Yes.
just even understanding.
Yes.
It's a powerful teacher by all means, but I think it is one of the more uncomfortable emotions to sit with because then we sit in so much judgment of ourselves. Like, how could I be angry? Why would I be angry? This is an uncontrollable. And it's a feeling I have, not necessarily has to do with anyone else.
Yeah. No, I think that is so profound. I also think too that, you know, the anger part of it is, I don't want to say it's selfish, right? Because I don't think that's quite what I would classify it as. But I think a part of it is that we have this belief that like life is just gonna go the way we want it to go. And that's it. Like I'm sure when I was 21 or 22, like I had a vision for like what my life was going to be like and how I was going to lead my life. And when anything, whether it be a diagnosis or it be an injury or an illness, like that takes you off of that path, it's frustrating, right? And you're just like, why does this have to be my reality? And when those emotions are not channeled in the right way, it does turn into anger because you can't help it. Like you're literally like, I can't even do anything with this. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? And so I would, I didn't like the person that I was, you know, I'll be honest. Like, I think I did the best I could to be a good mother to my son, but I did not like the person that I was. The fact that I would take out my anger on a child, you know, who, for all intents and purposes, doesn't even know, you know, like what the world has to offer, right? And I'm taking out all of these emotions on this, you know, defenseless child at the time. I would look in the mirror sometimes and just be like, who are you? Like, why are you doing this to the child, the very child that you prayed for and cried for and wanted so badly? Like, why not just accept? But that was such a hard concept then. Like I would have those conversations in the mirror with myself, but I would go out and do the exact same thing I did the day before. So it was like this cycle, this vicious cycle. And I think a lot of as well, the anger was rooted in, I can't even get out of my own way. Like I know the right thing to do. I know that I shouldn't be angry, but I am angry. And so I'm judging myself for being angry. And it just makes it worse. And I will tell you that God bless children because they are the most forgiving souls in the world. You know, I do believe that children are God's gift because there were times when I would look at my son after maybe just being so nasty to him and he would still want me to cuddle with him and he would still, you know, he'd still touch my face and that's what it was humbling. It was like I have a duty to this child. Like don't let my beliefs and the fear, because it was a lot of fear. A lot of it was fear. It was like the fear of the unknown. I've never, I mean, I don't like, I've never raised a child, let alone a child with special needs. So like, there was a lot of fear there. Like, what if I don't do a good job? What if something happens to me, right? Like, what if something happens to me? Like, who's going to take care of the kid? Like, nobody's going to do it the way I do it. So there was a lot tied up in that. But I honestly can say that I don't think I would be an ounce of who I am today if I didn't have him.
What do you think that turning point was? Like, I know you and I talked about like how as mothers we lose ourselves so many different times throughout our journey of motherhood. What was the turning point where you finally, do you think it was a shift in acceptance? Because acceptance sometimes feels really hard. Like when people say that, they're like, just, you know, if you just accept it, then you can move through it. And I sometimes feel like it's like water pouring through my hands. Like I don't know what that means. Like, what do you mean when you say accept it? Is it just a feeling? Is it a moment? What was that kind of pivot?
I think it's letting go of the resistance to what is. You know, I think a lot of, and just like you said, you know, this whole entire experience is not a linear one. I think I actually spoke with somebody a week ago where they're like, you know, when they get to be teenagers, you're going to have that whole new wave of it. When they're adults, a whole new wave of it. Because remember, you know, we're all growing. Like, we're not going to stop growing. He's going to continue to grow. I'm going to continue to grow. But for me, I think it was that resistance. It was like, stop fighting what you see. Like he's literally right in front of you and you can see what it is. Why are you fighting against it? I think when I stopped fighting, I just accepted that where we are today is where we are today. And I can either choose to be happy about it or I can choose not to. But ultimately, it still won't change where we are today. That's
Hugely profound.
yeah, like, and I think that that's what the acceptance looked like for me. And it might be different for others, right? Because again, it is a spectrum. I know people who are on the spectrum who are brilliant, right? Who can speak. I know somebody who has 4 autistic children and they all speak. They didn't have any of the characteristics that my son had. That's why it's called a spectrum. But I think that the acceptance is just stop fighting against what you see right in front of you. We don't know everything, but we know what we know, right? Don't fight against that. Lean into that part, but also simultaneously being courageous enough to seek other interventions if they exist, to be open to being influenced by others, being influenced by his journey, right? Because I do think that for the people that I know, of all the people that I know who have children either on the spectrum or with special needs, they are truly some of the most amazing people that I know. I mean, I
Totally.
do think it is an anointing because could you imagine a child who has special needs in a family where nobody really cares. Nobody really is burdened by or runs themselves crazy trying to figure out how are we going to support this child. Like the fact that we're obsessive, the fact that we've gone through all those emotions, that's the gift, right? Like that is the gift. Now we have to learn how to manage that gift. Because I do think like, I mean, parenthood doesn't come with a manual, but I do think that over time we learn that, okay, this is my superpower, right? Like I'm so, so happy that I get to be a mother to my son. It doesn't negate the fact that do I wish he would have, productive language? Absolutely. Two things can be true, but I do also believe that I am the right person for it. Like God actually chose the right person because I won't stop at anything to make sure that my son has as good of a life as he could possibly have. And that says something. That does count for something. So my shift, I don't know if it was like a particular day or point in time, but it was like I just stopped giving resistance. And I also, one thing for me that was really powerful is that I had to slow down.
Yeah.
Much of my anguish came from wanting to do all the things that I was doing and run the same race I was running prior to having him. And unfortunately, I didn't learn that till 3-4 years in. I have to recalibrate. Like I gotta look at this thing differently. Like I'm going to have to alter my day a little bit. I'm going to have to be present with him. And when I did that, I found that the same amount of time that I would have put in is the same amount of time I'm putting in, but I just have to be present. I just have to be there with him and go through the task with him so that he gets the benefit of it and I get the benefit of it. And then he goes off and he does what he wants to do. Going down, it's the not resisting and just being grateful. I think there's so many things that come on the other side of being grateful, even when it is hard to be grateful.
I think all of that is so profound just on a life spectrum. Like so many pieces of what you just said, the resistance. I mean, it's the whole Buddhist mantras, right? That suffering comes from our resistance. And I mean, the more you talk about that, the more I can completely relate to my own experience. And I'm sure everybody can, that the struggle, the pain comes from that resistance. And I also love that you said that two things can also coexist. And that I spend a lot of time in therapy learning that just because I feel this way, I can also feel this way. And both can feel true at the same time. They can be completely opposing feelings.
For sure.
And both feel true inside at the same moment. And again, that also kind of pushes on that theory of resistance and that struggle and that pain coming from don't want to feel this way. I don't want this to be true. I wish it were different versus just, okay, here's where we are.
Yeah.
Now we're going to move forward. What does that look like?
And one thing my brother always says, and it's true because I think everybody knows this, right? It's like none of us get out of this life, right? Like we all are going to go.
Right.
At some
The
point.
one certainty.
That's the one thing we all know. So why waste the time that you don't even know how much of you have worrying about what will be when you're not here, instead of making the time that you are here productive? And for me, I think, my son is 7 going 8, so he's still a young boy, right? He's not quite, he's a young boy. And eventually he'll be a teenager and eventually he'll be an adult by the grace of God, right? I have committed, what I've committed more recently, and it was around the time I started the podcast, what I've committed to is that for as long as I'm here, right, and I'm able-bodied, I have all my faculties, I will do my best. I'll just do my best. When I'm no longer here, I will trust in the promise that God has made for each and every one of us, right? We're all his children and he has a plan for all of our lives. And so what I rest on is that if I am no longer here, that God will provide for his son the same way he provides for me and you. And I think it might be Joyce Myers, but worry is like a down payment on a problem that you're not even sure you're going to have.
I love that so much. Like I think about that all the time, that anxiety is future. It's not even happening.
Not even here. It's like, we're like, and the thing is, you know what it does? It actually robs you of the moment.
Totally.
Like, imagine how beautiful it is. Like, it's a beautiful sunny day. You could just go outside and just play with your son. But instead, you're worried about, okay, well, what happens when he's 20? What happens when he's 20? I don't know. You don't know. We don't know. We don't know, right? Like, we don't even know what's around the corner 15 minutes from now, let alone 10 years from now, right? So and for anybody who may hear this message, that's really what I would like everybody to take away with. It's like, the gift is in the present. Like, it's literally right here, right now. It's like you have the ability to do so much now. Don't worry about then. God will provide the same way he's provided for me in everything that I've gone through. I mean, we've all gone through things, right? And I'm sure you've gone through something where you're like, I don't even know how I'm going to get to tomorrow, but you got to tomorrow, right? Like, do we ever look back and go, hey, every challenge that I've ever had, every obstacle, every hill I've had to climb, I've come out on the other side. Maybe with a
I
little,
think about that a lot.
yeah,
I will specifically look back at history and be like, whenever I've got something really tough, okay, well, I didn't know how to do that and I figured it out. Like if you look back at your life, I think most of us could probably feel this way. It's always worked out in our best interest and in our highest good. It's hard when you're in it to understand that. And I can appreciate that greatly sitting in this space of sometimes I have that conversation with God, like, you must really think very highly of
he
me
does.
that you seem to think that I can have a career, have 6 kids and manage all these things and be given these gifts of, it makes me teary, these children who have so much love and so much capacity. And I grapple with how do I manage it versus just accepting and rolling into that. I know how to do this. Somewhere inside, I know how to do that. So it seems like, even as we talk through this, everything goes back to acceptance. At the end of the day, all of the struggle, all of the pain, all the grief, all the anger, if we can settle into that space of acceptance, kind of floats away and disperses.
I think what you just described is a very real thing. Is it overwhelming? Absolutely. And I'm a firm believer that, we don't have to lie to ourselves about what we're feeling, right? Like we have permission to feel overwhelmed and to feel exhausted and to feel, sometimes just undone with all that it requires to take care of ourselves and others. I mean, that is a real gift. I don't think that women or mothers really get enough credit for that. I think it's something that is expected and it's something that people kind of assume we're just going to do. But like, I've had to honestly start giving in to sleep. Like, if I'm tired, just go to sleep. Like, I used to feel guilty about, okay, well, I still have this brief I have to write, or I still have to, oh God, I got to do my kids' nighttime routine. And I just will just turn myself around when I could just say, you know what? Nobody's going to die if today we just go to bed. Nobody. Like, everything will be okay. But also, you know how beautiful it is to know that, like, there are 6 people in the world right now who have you. And it is overwhelming. It is overwhelming, but
Completely at times.
and they love you. Like, that love cannot be bought. You can't go to any store and pay any amount of money for the love and the appreciation that they will feel for you, whether they tell you or they don't. It is a gift. My dear, I know it's hard. And I have one. I have 2 kids, but I have one child on the spectrum. It is completely overwhelming on certain days. But the love that I get from my 2 children is what keeps me going. Because there are days when I'm like, I just don't want to do this anymore.
Mhm.
Like, God, honestly, I know you think I'm strong, but I'm not as strong as you think I am. But their love, the hug, or just the look will just remind me that, okay, all right, okay, God, you win. You win today. And one day, I do believe this, one day it will all make sense to you. It'll all make sense to me. And, what is life, right? If it doesn't have challenges. I mean, there's somebody sitting right now who may be watching this or may watch this in the future, and they may have tears streaming down. It may just be an aha moment for them. But I do know that there's somebody somewhere right now who's been dying to hear this message. I was that person. I was that girl. I scoured the internet for somebody to just tell me that it is going to be okay. Like, you're going to be okay. It doesn't feel like it, but you're going to be okay. And I would completely cry myself to sleep sometimes thinking, nobody knows what I'm feeling. Like, everybody around me just keeps telling me, like, everything's going to be okay. But it's like, no, 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 it's not okay. Like, I don't feel okay. So I tell you this, I say, you have 6 children who need you, right? Please, for what it's worth, remember yourself in all of it. Because I'll tell you that the greatest gift that you can give them is the model of what it looks like to take care of yourself. I'm just learning that. I'm not even good at it.
Too.
But
I think this whole experience has, if we look at purpose, boundaries were something I was never very good at. And I'm getting really good now. Well, I'm still going, right? But getting really good now at starting to develop boundaries. boundaries with other people, boundaries for myself on, okay, I'm tired. I need to just go to bed now. I need to make going to the gym a priority for me. And I need to take that 1 hour. And that if I put my air mask on and take care of myself, but that was never my strong suit until I hit such a rock bottom or a moment in which I was so exhausted that then it all started making more sense. The wisdom finally setting in of, okay, I do need to make myself a priority. And the uncomfortability of some situations that have developed where I've been learning how to put boundaries in place, the idea that I don't need permission. That has been a huge one. I feel like I've spent my entire life seeking permission, seeking validation. And all of a sudden, only as I'm cresting 50, right? Coming into this realization that I don't need anyone's permission and I don't have to justify anything. I just have to be. And a lot of what has come through this experience has been growth from that and learning through these really uncomfortable, really hard, really painful, not pretty, shame, guilt, learning that I don't have to defend myself or my parenting or whatever to anyone else, and just to trust that I do have everything inside, that I know what to do. I just have to stop looking outward for permission and outward for the answers and look inward.
And
that has been a huge lesson.
It's that nobody knows.
Right? Totally.
Nobody actually knows.
But we somehow think they do.
They
right?
don't.
We look at who's on social media. We look at this guru. We look at Mel Robbins. We look at Jay Shetty. We look at all these people and think they've got all the answers. But the truth is, they don't. And they feel the same way that we do inside.
Of course. I mean, that is the biggest thing. That was the biggest aha moment for me. And I think also too is the modeling, because we can tell our children or we can tell people all day long, what to do. But it's not the same as actually seeing it be done. And I think for me that, when I hit rock bottom, it wasn't like I'm sitting on the floor reeling. It was just, I literally hated my life. I hated who I was. I hated all the things, everything about it. I just hated it. And I was I owe it to myself, because remember that we come into the world alone as a person. I'm a person. My son's a person. My other son is a person. I still have a duty to myself, right? I still have to be happy and whole and all of these things, independent of the fact that I have children who are relying on me. And so that modeling, the going to the gym, the eating, or saying, right now, mommy's just having a 30-minute break to herself. Nothing is lost in that. But when you do that, without having to tell them, well, I'm setting a boundary here, you just show them what the boundary looks like. And that is more impactful than telling them this is what needs to happen, or this is what you need to understand, or mommy's going to take a break. You just take the break, right? And in that 30 minutes, you commit to yourself that this is my 30-minute break. If anybody knocks on that door, or if anybody comes calling, I'm unavailable. And you have to do that for yourself, because nobody, like you said, nobody's going to give you permission to take care of yourself. You either will or you won't. Either you'll do it or you won't.
Love that.
And I had to, and I think that I'm not 100% well, but one thing that I have made a super priority in my family and in my life is that we all have permission to have an off day. Everybody can have an off day. There are days when I'm just not going to be feeling it. I might try my best. I might try to push myself through it, but I'm just not going to have a good day. And it's okay. I don't have to apologize for that. I just need to communicate, hey guys, I'm really feeling spent. I'm going to just go lay down, do your best, right? If they shower, good. If they don't shower, that's okay. If they eat, cool. Nothing is going to happen in 24 hours, right? Everybody will be fine. We'll eat in the morning, we'll shower in the morning, everything will pick back up. But what I do is I'm doing that for me, but I'm also doing that for them. They need to know that mommy is, she gets tired too. Mommy does get tired. No, they don't think that, but I get tired too. It's so interesting because kids, they will watch you. They'll see you. They will literally observe everything about you. And it's not what you tell them. My son said to me the other day, he's like, well, daddy's sleeping. He's tired. And I'm like, okay, when you see me laying down sleeping, you still come and ask me for things. But that's what I'm saying. We don't give ourselves that permission, right? If my son comes to wake me up, I just pop up. Instead of saying, oh, okay, baby, you want some cereal? Okay, give me 10, 15 minutes. I'm still laying down. I'll meet you downstairs.
It's a good reminder. I love that you said that, because that's a really good reminder that they are always watching. They are always listening. And then that is a learned response and behavior. your son knows that if dad is sleeping, he's just going to sleep and that's okay. Right. Versus the minute I say something, mom is up. And we've set that precedence and that expectation.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a learned behavior, which isn't bad, right, to respond, but just that idea of saying
But
it
it
is
should apply
something that
to
we
us too, though, is what
create.
I mean. Like,
Yeah,
it should apply to
totally.
us as well, right? It's not like I'm grateful that my son recognizes daddy's sleeping. Don't bother him. Don't wake him. Because I don't think it's nice to wake somebody up out of their sleep, especially if it's like a Saturday or Sunday where, we're just trying to catch up on rest. But the lesson in that is that needs to apply generally. Like you can recognize that daddy's sleeping. You can also recognize that mommy is sleeping, right? And I say all of that to say that it's the model. It's what are you showing them? Because people tell us things, right? I'm sure you have a situation in your life where somebody's told you something and you're like, yeah, okay. I see what
Because
you're
when
doing.
our actions and our behaviors are incongruent.
Yeah.
And so people pick up on that. They know. And kids, I do agree, they absolutely respond to that. The difference in between my behavior, right, and my words, they can be very different. I mean, the goal is for them not to be, obviously, but in life, we know when someone's talking to us if their behavior is incongruent. And that's usually a red flag, right? And important for us to recognize in our own. And I think as mothers, we have such a tendency to override that, even when we know, like, it is okay for me to do this, or I shouldn't do this, or I should feel okay just watching a movie and not feel guilty that I should be cleaning the kitchen. Like,
oh my God.
that acceptance is only coming at 50, by the way.
Why does
You know.
why do we do that to ourselves though? Like that's such, I mean, maybe we do another conversation around that because I actually had that thought to myself the other day, which is like, why is it that when we decide we want to watch a movie or just like, you know what, like I'll leave the dishes in the sink tonight. Like, why does that make us feel a way? Like, it's okay to just like, I think we've been socialized that if we're not doing something, then we're not doing the right thing. I don't know what that is, but that's
Being productive.
yeah, like
right?
that's a thing that all women, I think across the board feel. But the reality is that I'm so much better as a mom, as a partner, and as a person when I'm rested, when I'm fed, and I'm not having to juggle 20 things. Like I don't even like the person that I am when I'm doing all of those things. So it's like we do all of that to show up and to be present for everybody, but the version of me that you're getting isn't even the best version. And again, we don't need permission from other people to tell us like, take a break or slow down. We have to recognize that I'm a little testy right now, or I'm feeling a little anxious, or I don't really like my energy right now. Maybe I should go and take a rest or go outside and take a 10-minute walk. And the mother that I've become by putting those boundaries in place has been such a joy that I even like her. Like I like the mother that I am today because I've made myself a priority. And I think that's like that. It's like this tug of war with women. It's like we always feel like we have to give the last of us to everyone around us, leaving us depleted, and then we just deal with it. When in reality, they get such a better person when we actually put ourselves first, because then we can pour. We have something to pour,
Totally. 100%. I forget that I have a choice and that I can regulate that. No one really is expecting any of that of me. It's a self expectation that I have set. And I really do forget that I have the ability to stop and take a step back and give myself permission. Like I'm the one setting this pace. No one else is setting it. It's me.
Oh my
right.
God,
So it's like self-deprecating and self-limiting. That realization, I really honestly only feel like I'm really in the past couple of years starting to embrace and even understand. And it's a long journey ahead. I was listening yesterday to a reel on Facebook and it was Oprah, I think. And she said, I hope that the woman you are today comes home to a porch filled with flowers from all of the women that she has been. And so I have to believe, right? Me too. And I have to believe that somewhere in there, this space of getting to the now, the giving myself permission, the allowing grace is built up from all of the lessons of not giving ourselves grace. And the final realization of getting to a point where the understanding is built from all of the previous exhaustions and lessons on not liking who we showed up as that day. And then the wisdom to look at it and be aware and reduce the struggle and let it go and just accept and go, okay, here's where I'm at today. And it's okay.
They're
And
gonna
it's us
learn.
choosing,
Yeah,
right? It's a stopping the self-limitation.
yeah, we have the authority, in our lives to do the things that we need to do, to take rest when we need to rest. And, I think every woman probably has those thoughts where you're like, I'm at the sink and I'm washing dishes and I'm literally like running 50 things in my head. Oh God, I got to call my accountant. Oh God, I didn't send that brief. Okay, I got to go read. And it's like, why are you, nobody is asking you to do any of that. Like, and I used to get upset very early on in my marriage. I'll be married 10 years this December, which sounds crazy to even say, but very early on in my marriage, I would come up with things in my head that I needed to do that nobody told me to do, by the way, just I told myself. And then I would get exhausted halfway through and then be mad at my husband because he wasn't helping. And it's like, nobody,
Totally. That is a
nobody
whole other
told you
episode.
to do that. Like you could just decide, I did 5 things. I'm tired now. End. And just to couple onto that, it was a lot of it came from because I felt like my son needed to be coddled. And my husband was
Mhm.
like, no, like put him down on the ground. Like you don't need to hold him. You don't need to feed him. You need to let him figure it out. And so it was like I created this list in my head of everything that needed to happen and all the things that needed to be accomplished in the day so that everything would be perfect. And no one said they had to be done but me. But then I would get angry when they weren't done.
Resentful.
And it's like,
Yep.
that was, I mean, like, I don't even know. It's just crazy when I think back on like the person that I was. And again, I'm not mad at that because that was a part of the journey that I had to learn. But it's like, we would do so much better if we were just kind to ourselves and that we gave ourselves the same grace we give everybody else. Like I give grace to everyone, to be who they are in the moment, good or bad. And I never gave it to myself. And in this
Mhm.
chapter of my life, grace and gratitude are my mantras, right? Like I am grateful every day for one, waking up, right? Because that's the starting point. It's like anybody asks me, how are you doing? I'm alive and well. Even if I'm
I
having,
love that you say that.
yeah, like even if I'm having a not so good day, but I'm alive and well, like that is gratitude. And every good thing, I'm telling you, every good thing, Michelle, has come from me being grateful, showing gratitude, speaking gratitude. Like it just seems to attract more of the things that I like. And so I really encourage, especially if you're going through anything similar that I've gone through or going through what you're going through, is just be grateful. Just be grateful and you'll see just how much your life transforms because we can't control it all. Even if we wanted to, right? It would probably be overwhelming to try to control everything in our lives. So we have to give ourselves grace, the most grace, right? Because this is our body. This is,
And it's a practice,
yeah,
right? Like that giving grace, that gratitude that's not why they call it's a
yeah,
practice.
it is a practice. And you have to be kind to yourself, understand when we all have to set goals for ourselves and we want to do our best, but the grace is really in saying, like yesterday I had to give myself grace. I was so tired. I was so, so tired. I don't even know where the exhaustion came from, but it was like 6 o'clock and I was like, I can't do anything. Like I'm struggling mentally to keep a thought. Like it was just, everything was just so overwhelming. And I said, I'm going to just go to bed. I'm just going to clock out at 6:45 and I'm going to just go to bed. And whatever time I wake up in the morning, I'll wake up and I'll do it all over again. And it was the best thing I could have done for myself. I got a lot of sleep. I didn't wake up until like 4:45 and I'm having a great day. So like just give ourselves permission and be kind and be gracious to ourselves the same way we give grace to others. And I think our lives will be so much better.
I love that so much. And I have loved getting to become friends with you and be a part of this community with you. And I mean, that has been so much of the purpose of this podcast is how to really venture into a scenario where if it helps one person, and the conversations that I get to have through this process is what is literally healing my heart and my own psyche on a daily basis. And I love that you talked about happiness is an emotion and we can choose it. And gratitude is a practice.
Yeah.
And that we get to start each day with it and it will set the tone.
Absolutely. I mean, I genuinely believe that. A lot of the things that we tell ourselves, all the limiting beliefs and trauma responses, right? It's something that we went through, something that maybe was unresolved. But I do think that every single day is a new experience. It's a new opportunity. And if you allow yourself, like if you just allow yourself to take each day as it comes, not trying to plan. I mean, we have to have plans and goals, but like not trying to plan and extrapolate out so far in the future that you lose the very thing that you have, which is the now. And I think you are an answered prayer for me. I remember early on, I used to say to myself, one day I will be strong enough to tell my story. And I used to not even be able to get the word autism out of my mouth before I had tears streaming down my face. It is a testament that, I mean, like, I've come kind of full circle in this. And I definitely have plans in the future to do something where I reach back out into the community of women who either are just starting their journey or are on the road to getting a diagnosis, because community is a huge part of how we get through this. It is a huge part of, healing, because the things that we will experience will be so different than anybody else. And it's not because they don't want to understand. They don't experience it, so they can't understand it from that vantage point. They can be allies, they can assist and encourage and sit in it with you to the extent that they can and not judge. But I really think that the most impactful conversations, the most impactful experiences that I've had are from people who have gone through similar situations that I have. And I want that. I don't want any parent to feel the way I felt during that time. It was so isolating and so scary. And all of those emotions were so unproductive, right? I could have, my son, myself, my family, we could have done so much more if we had a community of people who said, when you get to potty training age, here's what I did. Here's how you can try and tackle it. If whatever the case may be, there's going to be a variety of different experiences, but that community gives you strength. And when I've connected with people similarly situated, that's where my strength came from. And then also just understanding that, like, God chose you, God chose me. That was written. Like, it was written. I believe that. There may be people who don't believe that, but I do believe that that was the choice that God had for me. And I am going to embrace it fully. I am not going to feel sad about it or mad about it. I'm just going to be present, and I'm going to accept that this is my life. And my son is so blessed to have me, and I'm so blessed to have him. And we're on this journey together, right? Like, we help each other in a variety of different ways. And, I'm just happy that I got to meet you. I didn't know
Too.
that you were going to respond when we sent out the invite, but I'm glad that we connected in such a way that is so powerful, because I mean, I probably would have never met you otherwise, right? Like, if you didn't have a podcast,
Totally.
you didn't take the chance to say, I want to start this, and I didn't take the chance and say, I want to start this, our paths probably never would have crossed. But I'm grateful that they did. And I'm grateful that you gave me the opportunity today to speak about it, even in, the capacity that I have. And I just hope that even if it helps one, even if it gives somebody the courage to reach out and say, hey, Cindy, I saw this, I'd love to pick your brain about X, Y, or Z. That to me would be the point. That would be
Remind everybody where your podcast is so that they can reach out to you.
absolutely. You can find us on YouTube. Hear Me Out. Me has 2 E's, podcast, all one word. And then you can also send us an email if you have a question, if you want to talk, if you just want to vent, you can send us an email at hello@hearmeout.com.
I love that. Cindy, thank you so much for your honesty and your big, huge heart and your voice and helping other women through any journeys that they're going through in these arenas. And thank you for being with me today.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, we will talk with you all soon. Thank you for being here.